Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel with a new video about World of Tanks. Today it's another tutorial video in which I am going to talk about spotting mechanics and camouflage. In the garage, if you press the Y button on a tank, it will display all of its details, including on the right part of the screen, the view range, in this case 420 meters, which is a very high value, and camouflage, it shows here below average. I'm going to talk about those two values several times in this video. When you hear this sound, you or a teammate spotted an opponent. Basically, an enemy tank entered your view range. So you will hear the sound, you will probably see the guy on your screen and on the minimap. In this particular case, I have a better view range than this M4 Sherman, so it means that I can spot him but he cannot spot me. Also, please note that 445 meters is the maximum distance at which you can spot an opponent. If your view range exceeds 445 meters, you will not be able to spot. And if an enemy isn't spotted, it doesn't mean that he doesn't exist. You can still shoot, damage and kill an invisible opponent. Here, let's compare in the garage the values for the Sherman. He has a worse view range, 370 meters, but he has a better camouflage value. So the base value for the view range will be defined by your turret. Then the main modifier will be your crew proficiency. So if your crew proficiency is for example at 50%, you will get a massive penalty. I believe on PC it's 22%. So your view range would be reduced by 22% actually. Also it can be improved by specific crew skills, some equipment, and if you put the premium consumable on your tank. So you can exceed actually your base turret value. I don't know what's the maximum value for view range, maybe it's 50-100 meters. It is interesting to have it higher than 445 meters because you will be able to negate more of the enemy camouflage, but you will never be able to spot an opponent at more than 445 meters. So as we have seen previously, it is possible for you to spot an opponent but not to be spotted if for example your view range exceeds the view range of your opponent. If you enter the enemy view range, you will be spotted yourself and you have two icons that will display your spotted status. The first one is an exclamation mark and it says detected. It means that not only you are spotted, but also an enemy has his gun pointing at you. If he turns his turret around, the detected symbol will disappear, although you will still be spotted. The second symbol is the light bulb with 6 cents. This one is a perk that you'll have to learn by training your crew past 100% proficiency and then selected 6 cents. It will tell you as soon as you are spotted by displaying this icon. This is why it's one of the most useful perk in the game. Also, when you exit the enemy view range, you will be spotted for 5 extra seconds. Now notice that I am close to my opponent. He is in my view range radius, but we are not spotted each other. It's because there's a physical obstacle between us, and obstacles such as houses or rocks will prevent and completely obstruct view range. So in this example we are quite close, but we are not spotting each other. However, if we get closer, within 50 meters of each other, we will both detect each other. This is called the proximity detection. It entirely ignores obstacles, terrain, whatever. If you are within 50 meters and this is displayed on your minimap by the white circle, then you will automatically spot the opponent and vice versa. So you will be spotted at the same time. Now I want to show you more in detail the detected status. Detected happens when an enemy is pointing his gun at your general direction. It doesn't have to be exactly at your direction, but more or less in your direction. When you are detected, obviously you are spotted as well, so you appear on your enemy radar and on their screen. However, if the enemy turns his turret away, you will not have the detected symbol, just because he is not pointing at your direction. You are still spotted and you will still be appearing on their minimap. So if you don't have 6th sense, you cannot tell for sure if you are spotted or not, because you might be spotted but an opponent might turn his turret in another direction. Also, the orientation of your turret or your camera doesn't affect where you can spot. Even if your turret is pointing in another direction or if you put your camera in another direction, you will be spotted the same way and you will spot the enemies the very same way. It doesn't affect anything at all. However, turning your turret at the enemy at the last moment will trigger the detected symbol at the last moment for them, and you might trick them into thinking they were not spotted. So let's conclude this initial part about view range by telling you which equipment and crew skills affect it. First off, the binocular telescope. The binocular telescope will improve your view range by 25% if you're stationary for more than 3 seconds. After 3 seconds you will get this huge bonus, very useful for tank destroyer or any tank that is supposed to be immobile from time to time. And the coated optics will give you a permanent bonus of plus 10%. Those two equipments can stack together as well. Also, if you want to spot from a further distance, you can choose some useful skills such as situational awareness, which will give you a permanent 3% bonus. Remember that it will stack with your equipment as well, so it can give you a massive bonus in the end. The second most useful skill in this field will be recon, because it will give you a 2% bonus permanently, plus it will decrease the penalties if your optics are damaged. So if you have the binocular telescope, the coated optics, situational awareness and recon, you will get a permanent bonus of plus 15% to your view range and plus 40% when you are immobile for more than 3 seconds. This is simply huge. Sixth Sense here will not improve your view range, but this is a critical perk to have just because it will tell you when you are spotted in battle, so it's one of the most useful perks in the game. Now let's talk a bit more in detail about the camouflage. The base value will be depending on your tank directly, and it's more or less shown in the garage, but the exact percentage is shown in the wiki and not in-game. It is not affected by your crew proficiency, but you can use some crew skills and equipment to improve it. It will decrease if you are moving, and it will decrease even more if you are firing your gun, as we are going to see soon. I will show it to you directly with an in-game example. I am currently sitting just outside of his view range. When he enters 325 meters, he spots me. So he will pull back just to be outside and not to be able to spot me. Notice that currently I am immobile, so my camo rating is at its highest. Now remember, I have to wait for those 5 extra seconds, and now he is not spotting me at all. So as soon as I'm moving, I will decrease my camo rating, and this will allow him to spot me, just because my camouflage dropped. Remember, the camouflage is more or less a percentage that will decrease the efficiency of the enemy's view range when they are trying to spot you. So if I decrease my camouflage by, for example, moving, then I will be easier to spot, as I just showed to you. So in short, moving will make you easier to spot for the enemy team. However, turning your turret around, so not the hull, only the turret, will not affect your camouflage value. And the worst that you can do to affect your camouflage in a negative way will be to fire your gun. As soon as you will fire it, your camouflage will drop for a few seconds, which means that in my case, I will be spotted for as long as my camouflage will be dropped plus 5 extra seconds. I am now going to show you values for two different tanks, the M48 Python that I am currently using. He has a decent stationary value, 8.6%, slightly less when moving, 6%, and very low when firing, 2%. Below we get the values for a very sneaky tank destroyer, the Rheinmetall Borsig. It's a tier 8 German tank destroyer. It is infamous for his camouflage value, and as you can see here, when it's stationary, it's 22.56%. It's insane, one of the best value in the game. However, you can see that when it is firing, it drops down to 4.58%, and it's pretty low, not much better than the M48 Python's value when firing. So as you can see, tank destroyer can be very sneaky, but firing your gun will reduce massively your camouflage rating. So let's put that directly into practice. Here I am outside of his view range when I am immobile, and I enter his view range when I am moving, just because my camouflage will decrease. However, if I go inside a bush, my camouflage will be much better. How to know if the bush will conceal your tank? Well, it will work only if the enemy tank can only see your gun barrel from where he is standing. So if you're only showing your gun barrel or nothing at all from the perspective of an opponent, the bush will conceal you and give you its camouflage bonus. If you go outside of the bush, you will be spotted, obviously. So what kind of element will give you a camouflage bonus? Well, not only bushes, also fallen trees will give you the same bonus if you knock it down. And if you put several layers of vegetation between you and your target, it will give you a more important bonus. This is why the best locations in the game are usually filled with bushes, or at least one big bush, so it could conceal you from your opponent and you could detect them without being spotted yourself, and you could use that to your advantage or to fire and surprise an opponent. If you fire close to a bush, not only it will drop your camouflage value, just because when firing it's always lower, but also it will cancel all the bush's bonuses from, I believe, 15 meters around you. So firing your gun will not only make yourself more easy to spot for the opponent team, but also your allies, if they are close to you in a very close bush, for example, they could be spotted as well because you will negate their bush bonus. Now we are about to see how much benefit we will get from this bush. If you remember in the previous part of the video, the enemy was spotting me when he was at 325 meters, but here he is closer than that and he is not yet spotting me. And now he spots me at about 200 meters. So our very same tank versus the same opponent, he was previously spotting me at 320 or 25 meters and now he is spotting me at 200 meters only. So as you can see, bushes will help you tremendously when you want to remain hidden on the battlefield. So now let's talk quickly about light tanks. They get a bonus compared to the other tanks just because their camouflage value is the same whether they are moving or immobile. So the enemy tank will now pull back just to be outside of his view range, so he won't be able to spot me.
They've spotted us.
Now I am invisible and barely out of his view range, so if I am moving, normally with a regular tank I would be spotted because my camouflage would drop. But here I am driving a light tank and moving will not affect my camouflage, and this is true for all light tanks. Now I am going to put myself in the same bush as earlier with my M48 pattern. This is only to show you that tanks will get a different camouflage value, and this is a very important factor to take into account when you select your tank, and it should affect how you play your tank. This ELC AMX is a very good tank with an excellent camouflage value. So I will put myself into the bush and you will see how close the enemy has to go in order to spot me. Right now I am currently spotted because just before entering the bush I entered his view range. But now that I am in the bush, as you can see I am not spotted anymore and he will have to go very close to me in order to spot me. About 80 meters. This is quite close to the proximity detection. He has to go as close as 80 meters to spot me in the bush. So as you can see, all tanks are not equal when it comes to camouflage. And again, you can improve your camouflage rating by using specific equipment and crew skills. The camouflage net is an equipment that will improve your existing camouflage by 25% if you are immobile for more than 3 seconds. And the camouflage skill will give you a smaller but permanent bonus to your tank camouflage value. Green Thumb will improve the camouflage bonus that you get if you are hidden behind a bush or a fallen tree. It's useful for every tank destroyer or any scout. Then you will get silent driving. It will reduce the penalty to camouflage when your tank is moving. Obviously it is useless on light tanks because they don't get any penalty to it, but it's useful for example, light medium tanks such as the Batchat, because when moving they will still get a very nice camouflage value. Then you get muffled shot. It will decrease the penalty when your tank is firing, so this is most recommended for tank destroyers. Now I am going to show you why the Borzig is really infamous. It has one of the best camouflage value as we have seen previously. I installed a camouflage net and I have a very good crew on it. So I will put myself behind one bush and you will see how close the enemy has to get if he wants to see me. Remember, there's only one bush between me and the enemy. There's not several layers, just one bush. "62 meters for a M4 Sherman, which gets 370 meters of view range. Of course, tier 8, 9 and 10 tanks that you can meet in the Borzig can have slightly better view range, usually 400 meters, even though they won't spot you at a much larger distance. And if I put 2 layers of foliage between me and the enemy, he won't see me at this distance. He will have to go as close as 50 meters, and this is just because he will detect me by proximity. So this is why people hate facing Borzig, and this is also to show you that some hidden values, such as camouflage, can be critical on the battlefield. So now I am going to show you again the values for the M48 Patton and the Rheinmetall Borzig. You won't find them directly in the garage, you will have to go on the wiki of World of Tanks. Now we enter the last part of the video with some minor details. For example, here I am behind one bush, and when I fire I will decrease my camouflage value and I will be spotted. This is normal. On the PC version, if you back out enough so the foliage in front of you would become opaque and not transparent anymore, then when you fire, you would not be detected. You will still get a massive bonus from this specific bush. And this doesn't seem to be the case on Xbox. So they call it the double bush strategy. It's one of the most basic technique to remain hidden on the battlefield on the PC version. I never made it work on the Xbox version. Now I am going to talk about radio range, and this should interest you only if you're playing low tier tanks, because at higher tiers you will not have this issue. So I am currently sitting in the middle of the mine in F6, and I am going to take the example of the light tank sitting in F2. So you can see on the minimap his location with the white arrow and my location with the red arrow. There is a statistic shown in the garage which will display the radio range. It's a distance in meters. If the radio range of those two tanks overlaps, like in this example, then those two tanks can communicate and they will appear on each other minimap. I will see this light tank and he will see me on the minimap and on the main screen. Also, we share the enemy information. If he spots an enemy, he will communicate to me the position, so we'll see the enemy's location on the minimap. And obviously, if I spot an enemy, I will communicate to him his location, so he will see it on the minimap. But if we get too far away from each other, not only he will not appear on my minimap and not me on his minimap, but also if he spots an opponent, he won't be able to communicate to me the location. So what it means is that if we are too far away, we won't appear on each other minimap. I'm going to show you an example directly in game. So I am in the center of the map in mines, and I can see on the minimap my ally, the light tank located in F2. But I am getting away from him on purpose just to show you that at some point our radio range will not overlap anymore and he will disappear from my minimap. At the moment I can still see him, he's still in F2 and he hasn't died. Wait for it, and yet he disappeared. He's still alive, he hasn't been killed by the opponent, but he's not showing on the minimap. Obviously this will happen only in low tier because low tier tanks get very poor radio range. Now the very last part of this video, it's about render distance, and this is a not commonly known mechanic in the game. Imagine a square with your tank in the middle of it where both diagonals cross. The side of the square is 1000 meters long, and the square will not rotate if your tank rotates. Any tank, whether it's an allied tank or a spotted enemy tank, within this square will be rendered, therefore he will appear on your main screen. And on the minimap, of course. Outside of this square, if there is an ally or a spotted opponent, he will be displayed on your minimap, but he will not appear on your main screen because he will be outside of this big square. It's called the render distance. It's not intuitive, I know, especially since this is a square, not a circle, and the square will not rotate if your tank rotates. I will show that to you directly in-game with an example. I am playing on Cliff with my Tiger, a tier 7 heavy German tank. So look at the artillery, he is located in K1. I am moving away from him towards the eastern part of the map. I am currently in H5 more or less. At the moment, him and the rest of the team are within the rendered distance, just because they are within this big square in which I am currently in the center always. So at the moment, I can see the artillery in the screen. Not anymore, just because now the artillery is outside of my render square and he still appears on my minimap but not on my main screen. And this is true for allies and spotted opponents as well. So now I have explained all the mechanics for camouflage and the spotting system. I hope you enjoyed the video and learned a lot from it. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.